Hi everyone, I had a question on homework 1.2 number 9. And so I just wanted to explain a little bit on how to solve this and kind of the steps that you need to do. So for homework 1.2 number 9, this is just an example of one of those questions. Remember how the numbers change every single time that you do the problem? So this is just trying to show how to do a generic problem like this. All right, well, the first thing that MathLab asks you to do is to find out where the bottom cannot be 0, or where the bottom would equal 0. So if we're looking at our denominator, that's the bottom section here, and if I set each thing equal to 0, well, I'd see that x equals -3. So when x equals -3, the bottom here would be 0, which is a bad thing. If I moved over my 21 and then I divided by 7, I'd also find that x equals -3. As in, if you plug in -3 to here, the whole bottom 0, which is a bad thing. So for part A, where it says what value would make the denominator 0, all you do is you just set each part equal to 0 and find out what value that is. So that answer would be -3 for this question. As in, if you plugged in -3, you would get at least one of these bottom sections would be 0. For the next part, we have to solve this whole equation. Now, if you do the help me solve this button, it's going to tell you one method, and that method will be great and it will work. But I found that students sometimes get confused when there's extra fractions involved, and so I like to get rid of the fractions first. But before we do that, I'm going to look at this bottom and think about, is there a way to factor this denominator right here? As in, is there a greatest common divisor or something that can be divided out of both 7 and 21? And hopefully your brain's saying, yeah, it's 7. And so we would be left with 7 times x plus 3. As in 7x divided by 7 is 1x. 21 divided by 7 is 3. If you wanted to check that, you could see that if you distribute it back, 7 times x is 7x, and 7 times 3 is 21. And we could get back to kind of where we started. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, just because I don't have a large board, erase that part. And I'm just going to write it as 7 parentheses x plus 3. That's the same thing that we had found. That's just the divided option. Now, in order to find our least common divisor, which is what it tells you to do, I like to think about, okay, well, what do I need? As in, what is the smallest amount that would include every single thing on the bottom? Well, for that, I always look at the most complicated section. If I started for my LCD, or greatest common divisor, if you want to do that one, you could see that we have 7 and x plus 3. So if I made all the bottoms look like that, could x plus 3 fit into this? Yes. Could 7 fit into this? Yes. So the most complicated section, or this side, includes every single thing that we need for a denominator. Now, if you remember back, I said that I like to get rid of those denominators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply each of the tops of my fractions by that entire LCD. 7 x plus 3. And you might be thinking, oh my goodness, this looks horrible. Why would you do this? Well, now, before we move on, I want us to look at our new problem. If you look at this new problem, what could cancel? Well, this entire bottom cancels, and so my left side is now just an 8. If I look at this next section, the x plus 3 cancels, and I'm left with 4 times 7. Which we can easily figure out is going to be a 28, but we'll get there. And on this, we can see that the 7s cancels. We're going to have minus 4 times x plus 3. So if we are then thinking about, okay, how are we going to solve this? Well, we're going to have 8 equals 28. And then this is another distribution. So we're going to take this whole -4 part and distribute to both things. So -4 times x is -4x. -4 times 3 is -12. Okay. Next up, we're going to take this 28 and the 12. I'm going to combine them. They're you could move over the 28 and then you can move over the 12. It doesn't matter your steps as long as we get to that same result at the end. So 28 minus 12 does get us down to 16. Everything else will stay the same. We are then going to move over my 16. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now I have negative 8 equals negative 4x. And then our very, very last step, since these are multiplied in order to get x by itself, would be to divide by negative 4. Well, a negative divided by a negative does get us a positive. And so my final answer is going to be that x equals 2. This homework question doesn't have an issue with this number matching, but in general, it's a good idea to make sure, hey, is this answer that I got the same as this? No. So that means if I plug in a 2 to the bottoms right here, my whole equation would work. There's no issues. It's not called an extraneous solution. So if this was a 3, and after we solved all of this mess, we got a negative 3 down here. Well, that's bad. Remember how we said it was bad? And so that would be called extraneous. In general, we're not going to have that issue on our homework or our midterms or tests or anything like that. So whatever answer you get down here, you are all done. All right, hope this helps, and let me know if you need anything else. Thank you.